Welcome to the Agents of the Roundtable Wiki Community AMA. Every Monday at 7 p.m. UTC, we discuss Secret Network and its applications with guests from all around the network. This is an audio recording of the AMA. We hope you enjoy.
Your stake is the higher you can go. Other than that, a lot of people prefer to stake with the smaller validators in order to promote decentralization. Regarding fee, if you just want the most bang for your buck individually, then you should go with a 0% node. But that, of course, is perhaps less sustainable long term, so you never know how long that's going to last. And if you see someone that has a somewhat higher percentage fee, but you really like their contributions to the network and to the ecosystem, then maybe it's worth it for you to stake with them. I think those are the main points when people decide who to stake with, assuming that the uptime is the same. Because of course you want someone with good uptime. That's something that Stefan already mentioned as well. Lastly, but not least, I would definitely suggest you stake with a validator that votes. But if you vote yourself, then of course that's less important.
Yeah, thank you. One follow-up. Where can I check if the validators have good uptime or not?
Secretnodes.com.
Yeah.
The node section, it'll show at least like what the last 100 blocks or 500 blocks or something. And pretty much most of the active set has good uptime.
Yeah, and you can even go further now, Eric, back in time. I can share my screen. Maybe that's handy for people to see. Can I do that without doxing myself? Always the first question you need to ask.
As long as there is some Orban Wars alpha in it, that's fine.
Orban Wars alpha. Nah, I think the artist just joined the channel, so I gotta be careful what I share now. So let me first navigate to the homepage of Secret Nodes. I think all of you will know this webpage. Regretfully, it's not super fast. It's a downside when you're streaming. So of course you have the homepage of Secret Nodes, secretnodes.com. And here you can go into the nodes and you get various information about all these nodes. Now I'll take my own node as an example because if we talk about like uptime, I wouldn't want to talk bad about anybody. Although you currently see there's 2 nodes down, so definitely if you're staking there, maybe you want to switch it because if those stay down too long, then this is what Eric was telling about. So these are the last 100 blocks. Lucky me, I didn't miss a single block in the last 100. But now you also have this chart. This is new, relatively new, and this looks back quite a couple of days. So you see January 10th here and January 9th. So this looks back, I don't know, maybe like something like 48 hours. So my node has been up. I'm not going to click into nodes that maybe don't show like 100% uptime because I don't think that's classy. But basically, if you are delegating with a node or if you're considering to delegate with a node, you can look further than 100 blocks now, look almost back like 48 hours. I don't know if there's any validator here that says like, yeah, sure, you can look at mine and I can show another one as well. But
you can look at mine.
A Secret Code podcast, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically how you can check uptime, and usually they don't differ a lot. Here, also 100 blocks in the last 100, and maybe a couple of moments. I think you have maybe missed a couple of blocks left and right. I see a couple 99%, but this is very healthy for a secret network node. It's normal that we miss a couple of blocks sometimes as validators. That's due to the way that the consensus with the privacy and the SGX CPUs and everything work on Secret Network. So with most other networks, you see like 100% uptime pretty much all the time. Secret Network, it's accepted if you lose or miss a couple of blocks left or right in a day. That's totally fine.
Yeah, what you don't want to see is just like giant blocks of being down.
Yeah. Like, I know that some validators, you'll see that they sometimes drop to as low as 82, 85%. And that's definitely a sign that they have not updated their settings to the latest suggested settings, or that they use hardware which has gotten quite outdated to run the current state of the network. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's a nice
Awesome.
way to look at how good your validator is performing. So pmuecke had some nice suggestions. Take a look at decentralization, the way they vote, of course the commission they're running, and whether or not they are a community contributor. So if you want to see who or what to stake with, then decide maybe based on the Discord list. You can just look through the list and see if you recognize any of the names, and if you like their name or have seen them before somewhere, just delegate a little bit to them. Are there any follow-up questions by someone in the community? Otherwise, I have some other questions I can ask.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I guess just for any of the validators, how much, I guess, time and effort does it take to maintain a validator? If you're just, let's say, running it for one token, let's say you're just running a secret validator. Like, are you dedicating X amount of hours per day, I guess is what I'm wondering, or is it more just being available or at, any time of the day? And then how long does it really take to update?
I would say after like your initial setup, it's more so just making sure that you're sort of like monitoring and available at all times. So we have like a monitoring system set up. Like if our node were to go down, like I get a phone call and a text message at the same time to warn me. And then I can respond like quickly. But I mean, it would also take like familiarity, like teach yourself like basic like Linux stuff if you don't have familiarity with that. So a lot of your time, if you have no experience with nodes, is just going to be like learning like the ins and outs of like the setup. But then once you have it, I mean, initial setup then will just take you like a few minutes, especially with Cosmos. All the nodes, except for Secret, there's like some exceptions, but most of the nodes like use the exact same setup. You just replace like Gaia D with Juno D, for example, and all your commands are pretty much going to be the same. And really, then most of your time is just going to be like monitoring and making sure like you're keeping everything up to date, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I would.
Guys, I gotta drop out. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I think I would add to that as a validator with the responsibility of voting, you also have to, of course, participate in that governance process.
Of course, that too.
Yeah. So I think that's not like a hardware thing, but it's definitely something that I think should be expected of validators, and that delegators probably expect of validators.
Yeah.
And then the last thing maybe I would add, like for example with like Supernova, I personally wasn't a node back then, but I know from witnessing the entire process as a core contributor from the sideline that when you go through like a network upgrade, which of course doesn't really happen much more often than once per year maybe, there's definitely a lot of organization going around with all the validators coming together, being on standby, testing the network, reporting it, and that can take maybe anywhere between like 6 to 24 hours depending on how the upgrade goes and gets, that you really have to be basically available continuously for whatever may happen.
Would you say like the level of technical expertise, like do you need to have, coding experience, or is it something that you can kind of figure out through, reading forums and stuff like that? Obviously much more difficult, but is it something that an average user could do?
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
No coding experience required. Being able to read batch scripts or to make your own batch scripts can sometimes be useful, but generally is not expected or necessary. Usually if that is necessary, there's usually somebody else in the validator community that can do that. I would, however, and I think, let me answer your question first. Yes, I think any person would be able to teach themselves this in a relatively short amount of time. However, the question you should also be able to fairly ask yourself is, if my node goes down, with the risk of getting slashed for downtime, am I skilled enough to fix it within 16 hours?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, Stefan.
Mhm.
Something I went through myself with Whispernode. I had no coding experience whatsoever, and very much learned through setting up secret nodes how to run validators. But I did, to Stefan's point, while I was kind of learning and in the experimentation process myself, I would call it, have someone as a part of my team that in case of the node going down, I could rely upon to get it back up. So if you are planning on learning, you definitely would want to probably have someone helping you through that kind of stuff as you learn.
So is this more a hardware concern?
I would say more a server concern.
Yeah.
If you're not really used to Linux, what Reverse Science said, like Linux is command line. You communicate with your server only through command line. There's no graphical user interface or anything. You just type commands in a black box. And that is something that can feel very unfamiliar to people that are generally used to, like, let's say, Windows. So that can make it quite uncomfortable because in Windows you have a lot of visual confirmation. Hey, yes, I copied this file, I pasted it there, and now I see this file in this folder. Like, that's very different in command line. You basically just have to run a query which files now exist in this new folder to see if you actually copied it. And that can feel very much out of tune when you do it for the very first time.
Okay,
I would. Go ahead, Reverse.
That was CryptoChem. I was just going to say, so you would recommend learning at least some basic CLI commands on Linux before you go and fire up your validator?
Oh yeah.
I would learn from the very beginning, like how to update Linux, like your distro, and you're most likely going to be using Ubuntu. So there's a very specific type of command line you're going to use. So like it'd be like, sudo apt update upgrade. So like learn that basic command first, and then learn how to like move through directories, how to copy files from one to another. And then really there's only like a certain set of utilities you're going to be using on most nodes. And if you just become familiar with like the basic commands for those utilities, then once you do it like a few times, you start to pick it up pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, and one thing, lots of test nets out there that you can practice on testnet, and that way, you can run a testnet node without risking the slashing and whatnot as you figure out how to run CLI, how to open and close different ports or configure firewalls, and different things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, actually. I think I'll get into running a testnet node myself. It's a good way to learn.
Yeah.
That's how I started, was a testnet too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I never thought of that. It's a good suggestion.
Yeah, especially also since you need a certain amount of secret delegated to even be in the active set these days. Of course, you can first start out with a full node, and I would definitely suggest doing that. But just learning the basics of Linux is a lot cheaper if you don't do it on the secret network node.
Yeah, thank you for all your extra comments on this. I think it's really helpful for people who are looking to become a validator. I think after the increase from 50 to 70, a lot of people got interested in this. I was asking some questions about validating myself today, and I think maybe in the summer or after that, when the active set increases again, if someone makes a vote for that, then maybe we see some new validators who are now in this chat. So, are there any follow-up questions by anyone in the community? Otherwise, I have one more, and then we can have an open discussion about any topic we want. You want to say anything? Oh yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about Orban Wars. Will it run on browser? And if I run Linux, so does it work on Linux, the game?
It will not run in the browser. Our graphics are way too sophisticated to ever be able to run in the browser. We currently got a Windows platform launch scheduled. I've actually not thought about a Linux launch yet. We do use a game engine that is multi-platform. I could export a test version to Linux when we launch and see if it works. But I think we cannot guarantee support for Linux in the short term. The expanding to other device or operating systems is definitely planned, one of which is mobile. So I guess probably we're going to have a Linux version in the future. If the alpha will already be on Linux, I don't know. I guess it depends on how well it runs when we use the Linux export.
Oh, on mobile, that's amazing. Android best.
Yeah. Android first, iOS maybe. Currently, iOS seems to be a relatively large risk, considering their stance generally towards the whole NFT space. Google has openly communicated that they accept it and support it. Google themselves do a lot with a blockchain technology as well these days, so it would be weird for them to ban it. Apple, in that regard, is somewhat of a business risk, so that's definitely last.
Very nice. It's very good. A game like Turret Defense for mobile. That's best. Tap
But I
tap
have an
tap.
iPhone.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. I think that's where we expect most of our non-crypto native onboarding, which is something that we very much had from the start of our game designs. That's what we said we wanted. We want people to just download something in the Play Store, don't even know about Bitcoin, be able to play, get going, start earning NFTs, and then as they play the game and they start learning, oh, these are NFTs, I heard about this, and then maybe read some tutorials of Orban Wars, oh wow, this is actually, I got something that's on the blockchain now. It's wow, that's amazing. And then they already got it, and then getting interested in and moving towards blockchain is going to be so much easier. So one of the things that we hope to achieve with Orban Wars is that we're going to onboard a lot of people into cryptocurrency with a secret network first experience instead of a Bitcoin first or an Ethereum first experience. And we're quite stoked about how that will unpack itself.
So
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead first.
I have another question about secret network. So I was researching Celestia, if you know, the data availability layer for rollups.
Yes.
And I think, it would be great for secret to scale on Celestia, because we could use consensus of Celestia and just continue doing our privacy and everything.
Yeah, so what you're suggesting is unfortunately
I suggest
a little bit
be a roll-up of secret network on Celestia, which would improve scalability of the secret network.
Yeah, no, I know what you're suggesting. I think you probably heard some interviews, but one of the things which is probably really hard to achieve this is the fact that the privacy on secret network is coming from the way the secret network achieves consensus. So it's dependent on the validator set we have and the hardware they run. So it wouldn't be the secret network for now would not be able to have the privacy compatible smart contracts over IBC with the validators of Celestia. And since we already have our own validator set, I don't think sharing security with another chain is on the roadmap in any shape or form for now.
Yeah, okay. No big deal. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, so I have one more question regarding validator and validating and delegating, and then everybody who wants to go away, all the validators who don't want to stay here anymore, they can leave. I thought it would be nice to just quickly go over what is how does the delegated proof of stake network how does the delegated proof of stake mechanism of secret network work? where does the staking APR come from, and do you have to vote, or is your vote coming from the validator, etc. So maybe someone could quickly chime in on that, and otherwise I would do it. Maybe not Stefan, so pmuecke or someone else.
Sure. I can say something about it. Basically, the inflation is currently 15%, and that is distributed amongst all the people that are staking on the network, which is around 55% now. So if you combine all of that together, you come down to an APR of around 23 to 25%, I believe, if you take off the fees. So that's the secret foundation tax and the community pool tax, which are 10% and 2%, if I remember correctly. And then basically after that, that's everything that you get, minus the validator fee. So that's typically something between 0 and 10%. Regarding voting, if you don't vote, your vote defaults to the validator's vote. If the validator doesn't vote, then your secret that you staked isn't counted at all during the vote. So if your validator hasn't voted and you still want to be part of consensus, then you should definitely vote yourself, or of course redelegate to a validator that is voting. If you do vote, you override the votes of your validator. So if a validator votes no and you want to vote yes, then you can vote yourself, and then it will override your validator's vote for the amount of secret that you have staked.
Yeah, thanks. Super comprehensive. I want to add one thing, which is if you want to vote, then feel free to discuss your vote as well in the forum. Secret Network has a forum, which is on forum.secret.network. And making an account, I think, is possible with both Twitter and Google, and then they can chime in on the discussion. Every proposal is up, I think, 1 week before the proposal goes live on chain. And then I'll quickly mention that if you want to delegate or redelegate your stake, just know that if you delegate to any validator within the secret network, it will be bonded for 21 days. So for 21 days, you cannot change anything about this. If you would to undelegate it, it would take 21 days for you to receive your funds back in a liquid form. And this 21 days is also used when you are redelegating. So if I delegate to, for example, the Miriam Labs, and I want to redelegate to pmuecke, then first I would have to wait 21 days after my initial delegation to redelegate. Or if I would redelegate to pmuecke and then want to redelegate to Stefan, it would take another 21 days.
You can actually redelegate immediately. You can't redelegate within the 21 days after your first redelegation. So there's a 21-day lock then, and you can only redelegate 7 sums at the same time.
With 7 sums, do you mean 7 claimed
7
rewards
batches.
which are restaked? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I guess we can move on to any different topic. I know there was a question from CryptoPonzu already. Maybe he wants to ask it himself if he's still here.
Hey, guys. Short, simple question, or at least from my perspective, it's a simple question. Maybe there's a more complex. How does Secret differ from Horizon, a privacy-focused blockchain?
Is there anyone familiar with Horizon here?
I'm not. I did the comparison of privacy-preserving networks, and Horizon was actually not on my list to compare it with. So I would have to look into that.
But I remember being asked about Beam as well.
What I will do is I'll write down the question. I will find the answer for you, and then we'll come back to you. Sounds good?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. You will get a reply of me in like 24 or 48 hours. So anyone else has any question or want to introduce himself?
So I just
Feel
had a
free.
quick question for Stefan again. So this is just back to what you were talking about with users basically using the Urban Wars app on Android, and they won't have any sort of. So I guess what I'm asking is, will all the computations, all the transactions be done on the back end, so a user wouldn't have to even own Secret to play the game? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, a user doesn't need any type of cryptocurrency to play the game.
Okay, so they could earn NFTs just by a free to play game, or maybe there's a subscription to get it in the App Store.
No subscription, free to play.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can earn NFTs. So it's play to earn in the most true form.
Okay, and then I guess how do you like cover the costs of gas, obviously for each transaction or each movement in the game?
Well, obviously, it's not a 100% on-chain game. That is pretty much impossible with the kind of real-time combat, because if we would have to calculate the damage of how much damage a turret did to one particular tank, we're easily gonna need hundreds of transactions or calls to the server or to the blockchain. So first of all, from a monetary perspective, it will become an impossible game to run financially. But second of all, any kind of real-time combat. So this is not only for Urban Wars, this is just for any game. So from an educational perspective, I guess that's interesting. The block time of Secret is 6 seconds. Imagine that you were playing Fortnite or PUBG and you shoot somebody, and 6 seconds later you figure out whether the shot was a miss or a hit and whether the person died. It's impossible, right? You can't play real-time combat or real-time games relying on blockchain with the latency that a blockchain has. And even when you look at Solana, it's still 400 milliseconds. And generally what we're aiming for in game development is about a 30 millisecond one-way latency. And the blockchain is only going to add time to that. So it's simply impossible to do real-time gaming fully on-chain. It's technologically impossible because the consensus algorithm of a blockchain requires more time than that. So basically, Urban Wars runs for a large part on a centralized game server that is being managed by Dominion Labs. And the NFTs are stored on the blockchain. And which NFTs you have access to is queried by the game server for you and then communicated to the client. The game server sits in the middle there because the game server does need to run the checks to check whether you cheated or not. So there's like various anti-exploit code on the server. So that's basically how the game is run, and that's, I think, what you should expect in general from crypto gaming. Full on-chain games are possible, but they require a turn-based approach and are generally quite heavy on the transaction, on the cost side. And we're trying to create this seamless onboarding experience for somebody who's never heard of crypto before. So yeah, we wanted to create something that doesn't require them to have crypto in the first place.
That is definitely helpful to understand. I mean, I knew you couldn't do everything on chain. I just didn't realize how much was actually off chain.
Yeah, like I said, it's. I think not only from Urban Wars, but just gaming in general, Secret Network or other network wise, you can expect a lot of this to happen off chain on game servers, where simply your inventory is managed on chain, but not the actual combat outcome of, again, real time combat. Turn-based combat can be a different story, can be done on chain, which is then a choice of monetary model. But yeah, that's I guess what I would say about that.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. That's helpful.
Could I ask a question to tack onto that?
Sure.
Stefan? Yeah. So would that sort of format, obviously, it's you were saying it's like it's to create a more seamless onboarding experience amongst other things. But would it also make it easier to integrate, I guess, maybe not specifically with Orban Wars, but just in general, like cross-chain NFTs in like blockchain gaming in future. If for most blockchain games will be using this format, because most like a certain, well, the way I'm seeing it is like a certain amount of processes will be running off chain, so there'll be like less entry barriers to bridging the NFTs cross chain, I guess is my thought process. Is that
I
just
guess
wrong?
it really depends on the type of game. Like if you take something like I don't know, like Farmville, yeah, you could totally do a cross chain, because there's no direct competitive element to it. But I think any game, and that's a really strong feeling I have, and why personally as a game developer I would not work on any other chain or secret network. Not just because I'm part of this community and a core contributor, but also just because of what I want to build and what I want my users to experience. Is that if you have a competitive element to a game, and your NFTs are public, then the game is not really any longer a game of who is best at the game. The game becomes a game of which person is the best blockchain analyst. Because if I can analyze or your hand or analyze the cards that you own, then I can, like, even if you let's say you run a Pokemon game and you can bring free Pokemons into an arena, even if I query your blockchain and I see that you got 50 Pokemons, but 5 of them are like super high level, then I can, and I know that 3 of them make a good combination, then I know enough to have a strategic advantage. And now that's what we see as game developers. It breaks the game, yeah, it absolutely does. So like cross-chain NFT integration, yes, possible. But depending on the type of game, it would break or not break the actual game experience that you try to implement as a developer. I mean, that's all. As a game developer, there's 8 psychological satisfactions that a game can provide, and that's basically the start of any design concept. And every single one of them would go out the window the moment that you start talking about. Or 7 of them would go out of the window the moment that you start talking about non-private NFTs. And the only one that still remains is abnegation, which basically means just zone out after a stressful day. That you could still do with non-private NFTs.
So I guess my only question about that then would be, if you were to design a game that like, if with a game you were to design like I guess an explorer that makes it a lot easier for you to query the blockchain, so everybody has access to the same amount of information. Would that help with that issue on other chains?
Well, I guess, then of course you have to change the design concepts of your game. But I'm sure, no title comes to mind right now, but I'm sure there are games where there's a certain transparency in terms of what the opponent is about to field or is about to bring to a fight, or even in an economic simulator, what they have available. Like, there's some.
You'd say like an MMO, what skills and stuff they have depending on their level and all that, right? Like an MMORPG, like WoW. Like you can see what items they have.
Yeah, well, yes and no. You have class and you have level. And yes, you would also be able to maybe analyze equipment, but what we've also seen in most MMORPGs is that there's stat transfer between certain types of equipment, so that, that one armor piece that you think just looks really cool on your character, and the stats of another armor piece, which is just better, they can be transmuted into each other, so you can look how you want to look, but have the stats of the best possible piece of gear you ever found. So, there are certain things hidden. But I think in an MMORPG it wouldn't work, because once you start scaling up past one player and you start looking, for example, at guild versus guild warfare or clan versus clan warfare, then being able to query the blockchain and be able to see how much of each specific class a certain guild has, and then maybe also see online time based on past transactions, you can pretty much estimate what type of classes a certain clan will field in a certain battle, or even in a certain time slot. You have those games where you as an attacking clan can choose the time slot on which you attack a certain castle, for example. Well, maybe you can even analyze from the blockchain when the defending clan doesn't have any healers online based on blockchain history, and then you attack. So, the moment that you start expanding and extrapolating beyond one player and start to get into large-scale PvP warfare, then the blockchain analyst, again, would be the winner.
Yeah, okay, wow. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, everybody's picking their brain. Now we're seeing the first play-to-earn game, and the first fancy play-to-earn game release, I guess. I hope everybody also already voted for the Secret Dreamscape proposal on the Secret Network governance. If you didn't do it yet, then maybe cast your vote. I think they are developing a poker game, which is only possible because Secret Network will have the cards private for only you and not for everybody else to see. Are there any other questions, or someone wants to introduce himself?
Danny's actually present in the call, so if anyone has any questions regarding it, I'm sure he can answer them.
I actually have a question, just because I've seen a lot, well, not a lot. I've seen a few comments, Danny, about the proposal, and I personally have not read through it myself because I trust my validators to vote for me. Maybe not the best way to go about it, but could you expand on sort of I guess the aspects of the proposal that people seem to have doubts about, and I guess why should we vote yes on your proposal?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So there actually doesn't seem to be a lot of doubt. We have sort of cleared up any issues that we sort of encountered in the proposal. But as for why you would want to vote yes, I really believe that Secret Dreamscape alongside Urban Wars can be sort of games that introduce new people into the the Secret Network ecosystem, and it can make it can be a great project to sort of onboard more people and let them know about the Secret Network and blockchain in general, I guess. And I think that's what we all want here in this call, right?
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I think that having familiar games that you can onboard new users through, especially since, I mean, assuming that other, I'm assuming the main point as well is other chains, unless they run all their processes off chain, can't really make the same type of games because of the whole blockchain analysis element we just talked about. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting proposal, and I think it's the game is familiar enough for everybody to get to know Secret Network. From a familiar standpoint. So I think that's very nice. You guys will be working in the proposal. I think it's set at 4 weeks for 40 hours a week in order to get it done. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Looking forward to see it come live.
Thank you. I'm sure the community is gonna love it once the project is actually done and the game can be played. I'm sure everybody's gonna have a lot of fun. The proposal is almost there's still 2 days to vote, and we've almost reached quorum. We need a few more votes, so if you haven't voted, please try to do that. I think it's really gonna help us. If you have any questions about anything at all, just feel free to ask.
Thanks. Will do.
Brandon, if you're listening.
I'm listening.
Don't forget to vote.
Okay.
I know you had some troubles with your own proposals, so I thought maybe you're in the understanding that you voted, but I just scrolled through the list that I think you haven't yet.
Oh man.
2 days ago. You got 48 hours.
Here we are talking about this. I was probably paying so much attention to the awareness committee proposal that I.
Exactly. I thought so. So I thought I'll give you a reminder. I know you hate it when you miss one, so.
Oh, for sure. I wonder if we'll have voting statistics up eventually.
I'm curious if there's like there isn't perchance an unofficial. Actually, maybe this is not something to say. There isn't like a validated grey list, is there?
Like we will have voting histories in a graph or in a metric, I think.
pmuecke, you're sitting on your microphone.
Yes.
Sorry. I think that Secret Notes v3 will have, how do you say it, metrics or a graph of validator voting history.
Yeah, I know Michigan just did it on theirs.
Yeah, they call it like governance engagement or something like that.
Interesting. I haven't seen that one yet.
Could we do a binary? Could we do a CoinGecko trust score? Oh, sorry, CoinMarketCap trust score, like they do for exchanges, where it's like, yeah, this exchange is like has a lot of liquidity, therefore it's trustworthy.
Yeah, but
that will have a lot of pushback.
Yeah, well, you joke about it, but Secret Notes have been looking into creating some sort of a validator rating system
without upsetting the validators.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't always do or do not do something because you might upset somebody. I mean, if you're upsetting the people that do not participate in governance, then honestly, I don't really mind. But it's probably going to require a lot of conversations before we agree as a community, not as validators, but as a community about the right parameters would be.
No, I think it's I bring it up because I'm like half joking, right? I think I'm joking about the format. Obviously, it's not that simple, and it's not that and it's more impactful, I would say, as well. But obviously, I still think it's a good idea.
I believe Luna is actually looking into creating some kind of metric scoring ranking thing, and it's developed by a third party that doesn't have anything to do with the validator. So depending on how that goes, we might be able to base something out of that.
Is there value in putting together like a maybe this is a little bit too gated, but a future Twitter, one of those secret spaces or something, like a future one between multiple chains, just to discuss like multiple chains on the Cosmos network, just to discuss because I'm assuming it's not just Secret Network that has this issue of like validators not voting. But
yeah, it's a complex question which is handled on many different chains. I know Osmosis also had some secret spaces about how they want to tackle this. I think the closest we get to tackling this, and I spoke about this today with pmuecke, is that Shade Protocol will have randomized staking. So if people are minting Shade with secret, then part of the secret will be staked to gather yield for the treasury, and the validators to which this secret will be staked is randomized. The exact algorithm is not yet out, but I think they are in works of having like an incentive system. So some validators will be incentivized based on whether they vote or they are more decentralized or certain topics, basically. So maybe it's a good topic to start by asking Carter what he has been doing in this realm.
Yeah.
So it's a discussion we can start with probably for a different meeting.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's gonna be the same question with Stake Easy, the liquid staking pool that is currently planned, I believe, to launch next month. they are not running their own validator. They will be pushing those delegations to various validators, by which, of course, they also have to come to some sort of like, which one are we going to delegate over? All of them? Part of them? How do we choose them? I have advised that development team to also bring this up into the governance call. So pmuecke, that's maybe something that we could talk about. I can bring you in contact with them. And you can maybe drag them into the governance call. I feel like they're a little bit reluctant to have that conversation maybe. But in the end of the day, that could be a huge impact on governance stability. So I do think we need to have that conversation before something like that launches. Or at least I can't force that, but I definitely hope that the team realizes the impact that they may have on delegations and network stability or governance stability.
Yeah, definitely. And feedback from the community is always nice to hear, I think, and especially in these kind of cases.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe have the discussion with the Shea team them at the same time. Ask them both to get in, as they are probably the two teams now only splitting delegations. So, and they for sure are not going to put them all to secure secrets, even though they have their own validator. That would be strange.
I was also Brendan, not that it's an issue, but whenever you get a DM, it comes through your mic really loud. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh, wait. Oh, right now?
Like the sound, every
Yeah,
now and
you
then
hear
you get a DM and it comes through the mic.
Hear it right now?
No, but it's
Pretty much tell you to mute yourself.
Huh? No, I'm not telling you to mute yourself. Jordan, don't do that. That's yeah.
I heard the same.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, we all heard it. I was just letting you know.
Reckon you're trying to push that.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I barely even hear it on, like, in my ear. So it must
that's
be
why I
some,
thought.
must be some weird, like, there, you heard that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I heard it.
Oh, okay. Like, I don't even, it's so
Brendan,
quiet.
Have you maybe ever set your Discord to also put your system sound through on the voice call? Maybe when you were playing some music or maybe
It has
playing
to
a
be.
video.
It has to be doing that, yeah.
What is this guy, a dev over here? Give him some IT solutions.
You could try using Discord's crisp noise suppression.
Yeah, so besides all the joking, is there anyone wants to talk about a certain topic or something to say? Maybe they found a nice piece of alpha or crushed some FUD today and want to share it.
I shared enough alpha today, guys, and 9:10 here, so I'm gonna call it a day. It was a great AMA session. Great job, guys, and I can say from an education lead perspective, we're really happy to have this MMA on our office hours, so we can combine them together. So if you guys want to continue this in this time slot, we're all for it.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Thanks for the support.
For now, we'll keep it on this time slot, but I will have some discussions with Brendan and Patrick and Skrilla about what the correct time will be for later on.
Okay, cool. Well, I gotta drop. Cheers. See you all later.
Yeah, so I have one question for the remaining people. What topic should we cover next week? Maybe you have some nice ideas. And then we'll think of some questions.
I guess I just want to quickly ask Brendan, do you guys have anything? I'm gonna say, guys. I mean, like as the awareness committee, I know you guys put out a proposal, so I should probably check it. But like, how soon are we looking at the new platform? Did you want to cover it in a future AMA? Like, would that? I'm assuming that's not next week's one, but
yeah, we'll definitely cover it. I need to actually come up with a timeline this week.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe think of, if you're interested in potentially helping with that, we can also invite you to the kind of brainstorming room.
Yeah, wait, a brainstorming room? Please invite me. That sounds amazing.
Well, the main task there is going to be, we had a the ranking system previously that we used was based on total accumulation of points, and then as you accumulated different totals of points, you would achieve a new rank. The problem is this new platform, for whatever reason, they don't keep total points.
Wait, what? That's so random.
Yeah, well, they do, but the problem is you can spend the points like in the store.
Oh, okay.
And they don't keep a running total currently. I've asked the developers if they can change that, but I think it's going to involve changing a lot of their code.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, no.
Yeah, they might say no. I can tell they're leaning towards no. So that might.
Do you think if you give them a bag of secret?
Yeah, that might work. We might be able to have to recode a lot of stuff, which just adds to the timeline. And I'm wondering if we're better off just making ranks and points a little bit different, and using the quest lines to more drive the rank.
You couldn't have anything. I mean, like, I'm not a dev, but you couldn't.
Thank you for listening in on the Agents of the Roundtable Community AMA. Follow us on Twitter at secret_AOTRT and every Monday at 7 p.m. UTC in the Secret Network Discord.